Hey, what was your first impression of the Falcons? What do you think, man?
We are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I am ramping up everything. It's a done deal. I just wanted to get that out of the way, okay? No, look, I said it before. I'll say it now. Super Bowl, kind of a Super Bowl run next year, playoff run this year, Super Bowl run next year. This did nothing but to further. I know a lot of fans were on Twitter, and as much as I could watch, and again, I was in the middle of nowhere for the game on Friday night, so I had to kind of recapsulate it and use some other services here because it wasn't like I was watching Wagga. I think that a lot of the complaints about it being pointless because they didn't play the starters, and I looked at it and said, I think that's perfect because I know that some fans said, we want to see Bijan, we want to get time with Ritter. I got all that kind of stuff working for me, but I got to tell you, I think what we know about this team, or at least I think we know about this team, is the success of this franchise this year, next year, moving forward, is going to be built on depth. And when you see the depth that was available, when you see Ebiketie make plays, remember, he's not a starter right now. And Logan Woodside, it could be a third quarterback. And Helms, Helms looks like he could make the team.
Right. And that's all you're looking for. I mean, I said this to a couple of guys yesterday. We said all offseason long, especially once we got to see the team physically, with the little mini camp workouts they did at Mercedes-Benz. And I think I told you last time you were here, they're just physically bigger. And it's something that the coaching staff wants, and we want to maul people. We want to bash guys, in. And that's what, Dan Quinn wanted them lean and mean and quick from side to side. And we want a little bit more muscle with the athleticism. We've got some dudes. And a byproduct of that is, to your point, John, seeing the depth and seeing what the other guys do. Now, look, admittedly, super disappointed when the news dropped on Friday we weren't going to see Desmond Ritter. I still think, regardless of what he did in the workouts in Miami, he needs more reps. But Arthur Smith is banking his job as a head coach on this, so I'll take a knee because he obviously knows better than everybody else.
Well, we're going to see a good chunk of him on Friday because we're going to see all the starters out there. I mean, they're going to treat this like a true dress rehearsal, and as opposed to getting
like week 3 in the old days, right?
As opposed to getting 10 snaps against the reserves of the Miami Dolphins. Now you're going to see him get 30 snaps, I would think, against the starters of the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think this will be a truer test because you didn't want to throw out unless you were going to start your entire first string on both sides of the ball, there was almost no point in playing any starter.
Yeah, and I get it. It's almost instant overreaction, weekend because you're seeing your favorite players for the first time. I can say this. I watched on NFL Network. They reran a bunch of the games. Russell Wilson and the Broncos offensive line look terrible. And I know they're going to try to move things around there with Sean Payton. He's changing the culture because he felt Hackett was totally out of his depth, and that remains to be seen. But yeah, they didn't look great. Bryce Young didn't look great. His offensive line did him no favors in the small sample size in Carolina.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a struggle for Carolina. I think some of the Carolina fans that called in and said, oh, look, I think that by week 15 when we see him again the second time, that might be a different story. And it's not. And I said to them, look, it's not about whether or not Bryce is going to be a quality quarterback. You look at Justin Fields, you look at Trevor Lawrence. I think Justin Fields is, for example, I think Justin Fields right now is a better athlete, better quarterback than, say, Dak Prescott. And you would say, what are you talking about? Well, he's just on a worse team.
Right.
And for the same is really kind of true of Trevor Lawrence. Now Trevor Lawrence has weapons around him. He's going to be – you can't be a good quarterback on a rotten team where you're running for your life. And so, that may just be his lot in life this year.
And that was Matt Ryan. I mean, that's why, we got into the great debates about what Matt was or wasn't. Well, look, I used to say it all the time. He used to drive people nuts. He needs a pure pocket. He needs that pocket. Pocket's got to be pristine. If you can't put a good offensive line around him, and they only did that, specific years like 16, 17, he wasn't going to have success.
And keep in mind, Matt Ryan only missed 3 games.
Right.
I mean, the dude was hammered into oblivion at times and really played all the time.
It's true. You're going to look it up. But what we're watching this weekend, different coaches had different strategies. Some teams went with starters. We mentioned what Denver was doing. Thought it was really funny because, in his rant when Sean Payton was taking shots at Hackett, he obviously, the guy said, hey, Aaron Rodgers is my quarterback. And by the way, I want to ask you a little bit later, but we can talk about it to start the show. I don't know if I've just had Aaron Rodgers wrong my entire life as a broadcaster, and he is the most charming, likable teammate, or is this just a giant blank you to Green Bay because he just wants to win so bad that he's had some sort of charisma bypass? What do you think?
I think he got rid of the witch. I think that's what. No,
right.
I don't understand their family dynamic. I guess all the reports are he hasn't talked to his family in years and years and years. He is a different kind of cat, and when he starts hooking up with Taylor Swift, which I expect that the future will happen, that we'll figure it out.
Well, his publicist gets with her publicist. That could happen.
Well, I still think she might be Super Bowl halftime if he's playing in the game, and then the quarterback and the cheerleader kind of walk off. And
Wow. John's already got the whole season mapped out and the halftime show. Wow, we're moving ahead. But no, Jordan Love, his understudy, goes 7 of 10, just kind of dinks and dunks, throws a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all you want to see.
I guess that's all you want to see. I mean, I don't know how anybody, these Green Bay Packer fans, because I've got them in my family, are going, oh, we've got the third one. I'm like, dude. It's a preseason game against nothing. You're dinking and dunking. We're not exactly, fourth quarter having to fire it downfield in a 90-second drill. There's a lot. We got a long way to go.
Right. But if you're the Steelers, you want to see Pickett take that leap. But again, it's your first time to see him since the season ended. Pickett down the field with a touchdown. Baker Mayfield.
He's a bit of a known commodity, at least.
But Baker Mayfield goes down the field, touchdown. That's the only beef I had this weekend. I wanted to see Ritter do that too. And we didn't get to see it. But as I said, to start the program, Arthur has been working with him, and by all accounts, John, everything we heard from guys that work for the Dolphins, guys that cover the Dolphins, national media who don't have a dog in the fight, all said we went down there and physically whipped those guys on Tuesdays and Wednesday, and our third stringers did the same on Friday night.
This is why I want to go back to why I think it was perfect and not. It was disappointing again, but I would have. Some people, this is pointless. No, there was a great point to it, at least in my book. And the great point is because you have position battles that are still going on. We still haven't settled left guard. You want the swing tackle. You want some depth. You want to develop another wide receiver here. We saw a couple of guys step forward. I don't know if Donald Igwe-Buike is actually Godwin's cousin, and Donald was a kicker. Right. Donald's got to be my age.
Right.
I mean, he was like 1980 at Clemson, wasn't he?
I think
he was on that national title team with Homer Jordan and Barry Tuttle.
Wow. A nice pull. But no, there were some fun things to watch over the weekend. Now, we've got obviously a log jam at running back. We'll go through the different positions and talk about who did what. But yeah, I mean, at the very least, you got a dude on the Falcons who's certainly going to make some folks say, hey, that's a guy I want to go claim off the practice squad if that's where he winds up when the preseason wraps up.
Right, and they said, well, Godwin can't make the team because they're not going to carry 4 running backs. Well, what if they just reclassify Cordero because they don't like any of the other options out there? And then you saw Scoot, and you saw some of the other things that are – look, I wanted to see – they had to see in action because now the next two – well, certainly this week, right? Certainly this week is going to be all about the starters.
Right.
Okay?
And look, I got to be honest with you, and Chris and I were texting about this over the weekend. We were at Falcons camp for 9 days, and there were guys catching passes that I couldn't even remember from practice. I had no idea who some of these.
And by the way,
I can't lie to you. Yeah. I had to go. I literally had to get on my phone and go, "Oh yeah, Tucker Fisk, yeah, him." I mean, literally, I have no clue.
Aren't they doing a combo practice with Pittsburgh as well?
That I can't speak to. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if you can do more, or the NFL allows you to do as much as you want. We'll find out. I thought this was just a straight week of practice here in Flowery Branch.
Well, I'm talking. This is a Cincinnati game. I thought in front of Pittsburgh, maybe Pittsburgh. I don't know. I think I read that somewhere. I'd have to check. But
our crack producer and staff will find out.
Well, I got to say though, I think on balance, I was really kind of happy that Arthur Smith chose to do it this way because. When he said, look, we were either going to put out our entire starting to mismatch the starting unit would have been a disservice to Desmond Ridder because you would have had, guys trying to make the team or just make, something here or get a look-see, and that's not what you want with Ridder. You want Ridder working with Cordero and Drake and Kyle and Bijan all on the field at the same time. You're starting offensive line. You want all those starters out there because that's the sink you need. You do not need him sinking or trying to force sinking with a guy that's not even going to make the club.
Yeah, and I heard some Dolphin fans chirping on social media. Look, yeah, it'd be a different game if Tua was in there and Tyreek Hill. To John's point, it'd be a different game if all the guys John just mentioned were out there starting for us. And we're going to have to wait. They're going to have to wait till this week against the Bengals on Friday night at Mercedes-Benz.
Boy, it's going to be a good game, though. I know that Joe Burrow's all dinged, but again, this is a real. We used to talk about dress rehearsal. This is going to be a serious dress rehearsal for the Atlanta Falcons.
So much so that I'm actually going to go watch this game, and I loathe preseason football. No joint practice with Steelers, so we got it in with the Dolphins. But
okay,
I cannot stand preseason football. But I got to be honest, I watched the entire game, and there were turnovers and there were sacks, and I know it's the third string, but those are things, turnovers and sacks. As a Falcon fan, you haven't heard those words in the last 6 years. Let's be honest.
Well, and Ebiketie with a spin move.
Right. And we're waiting. And every day I think we talk Falcon Report, I say, when is this guy going to pop? If that's what he's doing and working on, giddy up. I think folks can be real excited.